Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tap. I'm glad you made it. Hey, I just wanted to go over one more time what these proposed budget cuts would actually entail. Now, I'm not going to go through it exactly verbatim from any of the articles that I've read. I read the article before from the VA as well as one from Task and Purpose. But in any case, I just wanted to do, again, kind of a high-level overview because there's been a lot of stuff that's been bouncing around from the Congressional Budget Office, their proposal, now the House proposal that was mentioned by Rep. McCarthy. So what is this now? 22%, right? So please hit the thumbs up for me, subscribe, share with a friend, all that good stuff. So what it's not affecting, right, is compensation, right? So this 22% is not affecting monetary benefits, right? And I talked about that. I went through the things that it's affecting. On the contrast of that is that, was the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, was their proposal. Their proposal was to basically revamp the rating schedule and eliminate compensation for households, not a veteran, the household. So if your spouse makes a lot, and then you're screwed. Is if you make over a certain amount of money, it will start reducing your compensation until you hit, and if I remember right, it was $175,000 or so for the household. Once you hit that number, then there's no compensation. So that was from the Congressional Budget Office and their proposal to essentially Congress. The most recent proposed cuts are really affecting the ability for the VA to function. And there's two ways to look at it. Either function as they are today or be able to function at a higher level. Because if they reduce the funding, it reduces staff and so forth. And I went through the staff, basically the collateral damage that would happen from the cuts, whether it is a future dollar amount that was going to be reduced or a current amount that is being reduced. No matter which way you look at it, it would affect the ability for the VA to do its job. Now remember, the VA is a three-headed monster. You have the VBA, which is the Veterans Benefits Administration, and you have the VHA, which is the Veterans Healthcare Administration, and then you have the National Cemeteries Administration. So those three components would be impacted if the proposal goes through as indicated by this 22% cut that's being basically, it's all over, right? So the VA is pushing back on it as well with their news release and so forth. So what you're looking at on and again, high-level overview, the VBA would lose staff. And how does that affect you? Again, your compensation's fine, right? So your check keeps showing up. Great. What happens is you go to file a new increase, a secondary condition, or file for an increase, file for a secondary condition, file a new claim for a new condition, or better yet, let's go down the path of a surviving spouse needs to file DIC. You're filing for some sort of school benefits. You're filing for vocational rehabilitation, at least that's what it formerly was. Now it's Veterans Readiness and Employment, VRNE, job opportunities and educational services, those types of things, right? So filing for any of those things will take longer to process because there's less people working all the different claims. Now, I don't know exactly what departments would be, affected and so forth. I believe that the VA alluded to, the claims processing portion, right, for your compensation claims or pension claims, right? So remember that pension is another monetary benefit from the VA, and it is basically a safety net benefit for veterans and surviving spouses who are low or no income. Basically, you're not meeting the federal poverty level with whatever income you have coming in. You can file for VA pension, either as a surviving spouse or a veteran. So all these types of things would take longer to process. Then you have the VHA, the Veterans Healthcare Administration. Well, you think it sucks today to make an appointment for some of us. Some of us, look, if you're 100%, you kind of get fast-tracked, right? At the higher percentages, the higher your percentage, the more of a quote-unquote priority. I did a video on that a long time ago, but maybe I'll do another one. The VA's priority list is basically ranked on, for the most part, percentages. So if you have a higher percentage, maybe it doesn't take you that long to get in. But if you have a lower percentage rating, 50%, 40%, 30%, so forth, you may be in a lower bucket, and it might take you longer to get seen. And this will get exacerbated, right? If 22% cut comes and reduces staffing levels, everything takes longer, right? So, and that could also get into, potentially, into a slow on CMP exams, potentially if they're done at the VA and that VA staff is affected. So that's the VHA portion, everything dragging on and taking longer. Then you have the cemeteries, right? The National Cemetery Administration. And with that, I believe off the top of my head, they were talking about a 500-person layoff is what they would be looking at, or a reduction in force or what have you. And those would be groundskeepers, people who are, would be digging the grave, doing internments, all that stuff. There was also, I believe, 4 or 5 new cemeteries that were supposed to be developed and processed or what have you, so they could bring in more veterans. And, that's never a fun thing to talk about, right? Cemetery stuff. But the reality is that we, as a veteran group, we are depleting, right? Life is a conveyor belt, right? And there's a lot of us getting older. And, so our numbers are shrinking. So there's more of us moving on versus becoming a veteran. So these cemeteries are needed. They're not just for veterans, right? Spouses, right? That type of stuff. So there could be delays in either A, getting put into a cemetery, or, and what a horrific time, right? To have that happen as you're trying to comprehend everything that's going on in your life, and you have your loved one had passed. I'm just thinking about like my wife, having to deal with that, and then there's delays and things can't happen and all of that. So, and then the possibility of less upkeep potentially around the cemeteries. They'll cut corners to because they don't have the manpower or womanpower to maintain, so they might cut some corners. So it might not be as lucrative as it should be. So, again, it's not affecting your compensation, but it would be affecting the overall veteran experience with regard to dealing with the VA for anything. So, and that's where the concern is. So, yeah, you don't freak out, but also maybe freak out a little bit because it's BS that it's even being talked about. So, if you don't stomp your foot on this and knock on a door about this, then when are you? Right? Are you going to do it when it's too late? Because then it's too late. So anyway, thanks so much. I appreciate you. Have a great one, and I will see you soon. Remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.